Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Fiberflux. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here because today we're going to be crocheting this gorgeous classic granny square stocking. This is a beautiful stocking. It's fun to make. It's fun to change up the colors and experiment with that. And I know you're going to have so much fun making this. If you joined me earlier in the week, we did talk about this a little bit. I gave a little sneak peek of it and talked about the supplies because this is the pattern we're going to be doing for our holiday crochet along. So today I'm going to be going through the whole project step by step, stitch by stitch, from the making of the granny squares, the granny triangle, and the assembly of all the motifs, and then the top edge, the hanging loop, and the embellishments, okay? So there are two options for this. There is going to be, I did one with bells here. As you can see, I put some gold bells on mine on the heel toe and the top here. Also, there's another option that you can do with pom-poms. You can put pom-poms on the heel and the toe as well. So two different options here. They're both equally beautiful. It's really just a matter of what you have and the look that you like the best. So there's lots of ways to get this pattern. You can join me today for the full video tutorial where we're going to go, like I said, go through it step by step together, every step of the way. Also, the free crochet pattern is over at the blog, on the Fiberflux blog. You can also get the ad-free pattern PDFs in my Etsy shop and my Ravelry shops as well. And also consider joining our Patreon community where I share the month's patterns all in that one community, and it's a fun place to hang out. It's a small group and lots of fun in there. So we're going to jump in and first talk about the supplies. But before we get started, be sure and hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel. It supports the channel. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't joined, be sure and click that button. I share videos each week. I share full project tutorials like this one. I share stitch tutorials, vlogs, roundups, all kinds of fun things. I usually share 1 to 2 videos every single week. So if you haven't subscribed, be sure and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos. Also new to Fiberflux are channel memberships. You can see the link down below to learn all about it, but there's some special exclusive perks just for channel members. So definitely check that out too. It's brand new to the channel. So let's jump in and learn how to make this gorgeous stocking. Okay, let's take a closer look at this gorgeous classic granny square stocking. So we're going to learn how to make the granny squares. We have a bunch of granny squares we're going to make. We also have one granny triangle that we'll do to make our heel. And then we're going to learn how to sew them all together and the shape that we need and how to form them and how they fit together. It's kind of like a puzzle. Then we're going to make a lovely little band for the top, like a cuff and a hanging loop. And then finally at the end, I'm going to give you two options. I'm going to show you how to add some bells if you want to do a bell on the heel and the toe, and I did one at the hanging loop. But also I'm going to show you how to make some easy, quick pom-poms if you'd rather do pom-poms at the heel and the toe. Now you can hop on over to the blog and you can see pictures of a stocking that I made with pom-poms and bells. So you can kind of pick and choose what you like best, whatever look that you're into. Okay, let's talk about sizing. So the finished stocking from the top all the way down to the lowest point, which is the toe, is about 17 inches. The width across the top of the boot shape, if you will, is about 5 inches. And then across here, across the foot part, is also about 5 inches. And then if we go from heel to toe, so the widest point out here to the widest point of the toe is about 10 inches, okay? So just to give you an idea. Now, when we talk about supplies and we start making this, some things that might change the sizing are if you change the yarn, if you change the hook, things like that. Also, your personal tension could affect this a little bit. It kind of fits like a puzzle, okay? So let's move on to supplies next. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, both for weaving in the ends and seaming the squares up. You'll need a tape measure, especially if you want to change the sizing in any way, and we'll go through the sizing later. We're going to use a 5mm H crochet hook for this project. I did grab 2 bells. This is completely optional, but you could put a bell at the toe and the heel of your stocking just to give it a little sparkle and a little jingle. Likewise, you could also do pom-poms, and I'm going to show you how to do both elements as well if you wanted to do that. You can do neither as well. It's totally up to you. Okay, let's talk about this yarn. I'm going to be using a medium 4 weight yarn on the yarn weight scale, if you look at the yarn label that you have, look for the little yarn ball symbol with the number in it. I have a medium 4 here, and I'm choosing 3 colors. Now, if you're going to make your squares bigger, you could add a 4th color on there. It's totally up to you, but I chose some classic holiday colors. I have a white here. This is just called white. And then this bright red, this is like a bright cherry red. It's called Red Hot. And then this green, it's like kind of like a bright spring green kind of color. It's called Guacamole. So the yarn in particular that I'm using is called Impeccable by Loops and Threads. This is one of the brands they carry at Michael's craft stores, just as a side note. But you can use any medium 4 yarn on the yarn weight scale. Okay, we're going to be making our squares in 3 rounds. Okay, we're going to make 15 squares and 1 triangle. Okay, so our square is going to have round 1 is going to be red, round 2 is going to be green, round 3 is going to be white, and the same with the triangle. Round 1 of the triangle red, round 2 of the triangle green, round 3 of the triangle in white. Okay, so we're going to start with our red. Okay, we're going to make the first square together, but again, you'll make a total of 15 squares. Okay, so what we'll do is go through 1 square together, and then we'll make the rest on our own, and then the next part of the tutorial will work on the triangle together. Okay, so again, 15 squares, 1 triangle. So we're going to begin by putting a slip knot on our hook. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop. Reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and tighten. Then we're going to chain 4. We're going to create a ring that we will work our stitches into, okay? So to make a chain, wrap yarn around hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we're going to join with a slip stitch to create our ring in that farthest chain from the hook. So that first chain that we did, insert your hook in that farthest chain from the hook, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop that's already on your hook, and we have a ring that we'll work into, okay? Also, hold this tail along the edges you work, and it will weave it in as you go along, okay? So next what we're gonna do is we're gonna chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This counts as a double crochet, and then we're going to work 2 double crochets into the center of the ring. To make a double crochet, wrap the yarn around the hook, insert it into the center of the ring, and bring up a loop. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops, okay? Then we're going to make another double crochet into the center of the ring. Then we're going to chain 1, okay? So you'll have a little cluster here. Again, that counted as a double crochet, so it'll look like you have 3 double crochets there. Okay, so we did a chain 1. Now again, in the center of the ring, this time we're going to work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3, still holding that tail along the edges we work, and chain 1. Push things over if you need a little more space in that ring, still holding that tail along the edges we work, and we're going to work 3 double crochets again. 1, 2, and 3, and chain 1, okay? Pushing things over, still holding that tail, and we're going to work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, okay? So now you'll have 4 groupings here, okay? So you'll have a group of 3 here, group of 3, group of 3, group of 3, okay? So to close the round, what we're going to do is count the 3rd chain up, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to join to close with a slip stitch. So insert the hook into that 3rd chain up, bring up a loop, now bring the loop through the loop that's already on your hook, and round 1 is complete. We're going to switch colors, so I am going to cut the yarn. So cut that yarn, fasten off, wrap the yarn around the hook, and just bring it through the loop and tighten, okay? Now what I like to do too at this point is to take that tail and pull it nice and tight, grab your scissors, and just give that a trim. You don't have to do that, but I like to get all the tails out of the way as much as possible because we're going to have lots of tails because we're going to be doing lots of squares, lots of color changes, okay? So I like to just trim the tails as I go, all right? So you can kind of Get in those corner spaces and kind of open them up a little bit. All right, we're going to grab our next color, which is green that I'll be using. Obviously, you can use any color you like for round 1, 2, or 3. Okay, so we're going to go into any corner space. I like to go across from the tail because we're going to weave these ends in as we go on this round as well. And I like to kind of space them out and not give too much bulk to my squares, okay? Okay, so we're going to go into any corner space. I just like to kind of go across. So insert your hook into the corner space, hook the new yarn on, and what we're going to do is just tie it right on, okay? Nothing fancy. If you have a way that you prefer to join yarn, please feel free to do that. It's totally up to you. I like to just tie it right on, especially for granny squares. Okay, so we're going to hold this tail along the edge as we work for this round, and we're going to do that as we come around and incorporate this end as well. So go back into that corner space, bring up a loop, and what we're going to do is chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and in the same space work 2 more double crochet, 1 and 2. Then push things over if you need some more space and chain 1. In the same space, we're going to work 3 more double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. All right, we've just worked our first corner of round 2. Chain 1, hop over to the next space, and I dropped the tail, I got it woven in. Hop over to the next space, and we're going to do the same thing. Work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and 3 double crochet in the same space. 1, 2, and 3, just like that, okay? So now we have another corner. Then we're going to chain 1, then we're going to hop over to the next space, and we are approaching another tail, so we'll incorporate that in as well. So go into that space and do the same thing. 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, same space, 3 more double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, chain 1, and then let's work into the last space. So that next space here and also the last space. We're going to hold this tail along the edge as well as we go and incorporate it. So in that next space, work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and 3 more in the same space. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, and 3 double crochet. Chain 1, and then we're going to join to close. So once again, like we did in the previous round, count 3 chains up and join to close with a slip stitch. Insert the hook into that 3rd chain up, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And round 2 is complete. Very, very festive. Okay, then we're going to cut the yarn and we're going to fasten off. Just like that, okay? Now what I like to do once again is if you wove in some ends as you went, just give them a quick little snip. Now this one we can't because it's on the outside, but these that we worked in, you can just give them a little snip and nice and neat. Okay, moving on to round 3. I changed the background, as you can see, to a festive background, but also because we're going to be working on white, and I have a white surface, and white yarn on a white surface is pretty impossible. So we're going to switch to a background color so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, round 3 is pretty much the same as the previous round, except we're going to be doing corner, side, corner, side, corner, side, okay? And we're going to go through the whole thing together. So what we're going to do is, again, if you want to, like I do, kind of opposite of where your tail is, I'm going to go to any corner space here and join the new yarn. So go into the corner space, hook the new yarn, and then we're just going to tie it right on, okay? So just tie it right on there. And then we're going to hold this tail along the edge as we work. Once again, insert the hook into that same corner space, bring up a loop, and we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're going to go in the same corner space and work 2 double crochet. So 1 double crochet, and 2 double crochet, just like that. Chain 1 and then work 3 double crochet in that same space. So 1, 2, and 3. And I'm still holding the tail along the edge as I work, okay? And I've incorporated it in, so I'm going to drop it now. Okay, next we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to go in the side space. Now the side is a little different, so we're going to go 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then hop over to the next corner space, and we're going to work our corner the way we've been working it. So in that space, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and in the same corner space, 3 more double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1. Remember to always put the chain 1s in between each of these clusters in all parts of your square, okay? We're approaching another tail, so we'll be incorporating that in a minute. We're going to work our side. So our side space is 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, holding that tail. We're at the tail now, so hold that tail along the edge. Go into the next corner space, and we're going to go 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and 3 double crochet all in that same space. So 1, 2, 3. Now I was holding that tail while I did this corner, and it incorporated it, as you can see, so I'm going to let that drop. Then we're going to chain 1, and we're at a side once again. So in that side space, work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3, chain 1. Hop over to that corner and work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and 3 double crochet all in that same space. So 1, 2, and 3, just like that, okay? Chain 1, now work 3 double crochet in that side space. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, then we're going to join to close. So in that third chain up, 1, 2, 3, join with a slip stitch to close the round. Insert the hook into that third chain up, bring up a loop, then bring that loop through the loop already on your hook, and your square is complete. So this is all you have to do to make your squares. So let me just, let's trim these ends here. Just like that. Now we're going to be sewing our squares together. So you can go ahead and cut this yarn and fasten off, okay? Grab your needle. Now, if you want to deal with all the ends all at once at the end, that's totally fine too. It's completely up to you. But I'm going to deal with them now. So when we're just going to weave that end in the backs. Did you notice how I flipped it over? We want to weave it into the back. And I like to just come in the other direction just to secure it so it's not popping out later. And then just give that a snip, okay? So then what you're going to do is repeat this 15 more times. You need 15 squares for our stockings. So go ahead and make 15 squares total. And then when we rejoin, we're going to make our triangle. We only need 1 triangle and 15 squares, like I mentioned before, okay? So you can put this aside, and we're going to move on to learn how to make the triangle next. So go ahead and make your 15 squares, and I'm going to show you the triangle. Okay, we are back to our red yarn because we're going to make our triangle, and we're going to do it the same 3 rounds, just a triangle shape, okay? So round 1, we're also going to do red, round 2, green, round 3, white, okay? So grab your first color, and what we're going to do, same thing, is put a slip knot on our hook. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up the loop, and tighten. Then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and join in that farthest chain from the hook, that first one we made, with a slip stitch to make a ring. Insert the hook into that chain, bring up a loop, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. We're going to open up our loop here, our ring rather, and again, we're going to hold that tail along the edge as we work, okay? So for round one, what we'll do, a little bit different than our square, but for round one, we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, okay? Then we're going to work 3 double crochet into the center of the ring. As a side note, this chain 6, it counts as a double crochet plus a chain 3, okay? And that'll make more sense as we make this first round. Okay, so in the center of the ring, we're going to work 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then 3 double crochet into the center of the ring. 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to work 2 double crochets into the center of the ring this time. So 1 double crochet and 2 double crochet, okay? Now remember I was saying this chain 6 at the beginning counted as a chain 3 and a double crochet. So we're going to count 3 chains up, 1, 2, 3, and join with a slip stitch to close the round. So insert the chain in, hook into that chain, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And now we have a little 3-sided shape, okay? So round 1 is complete. Once again, we're going to cut the yarn and fasten off, okay? Now we made our square. As you can see, we had like a 1, 2, 3, 4, a little plus sign. This one, we have 3 clusters, okay? And again, pull that center tail that you wove in and give it a little snip, okay? Grab your next color. For me, it's green. It can be whatever color you want. And you can tie it into any corner. So insert your hook into any corner space. I, again, like to go opposite of the one with the tail. Hook your new color on and bring the yarn through and then just tie it right into that space, okay? Okay, let's do round 2 of our triangle. I'm going to hold this tail along the edge as we work. Okay, bring up a loop. And then once again, we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then in that same space, we're going to work 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. Then we're going to chain 1. Then we're going to hop over to this next corner space here, this chain 3 space, and we're going to work 3 double crochet into that space. So 1, 2, and 3. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and 3 double crochet into that same space. 1, 2, and 3. Okay? Our corner spaces require more chains because it's making a sharper turn than our square, okay? All right, so we're going to chain 1 in between and then hop over to the next corner space, and we've also come to a tail. So I'm going to hold this tail along the edge as we work. You may or may not have a tail here, but when you come to one, just hold it along the edge. We did our chain 1, so now we're going to hop over to the next corner space and whoops, and work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, make your corner space, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and 3 double crochet in the same space, 1, 2, and 3. I held that tail along the edge as you can see on the back here. Chain 1, and then we're going to hop over to that next corner space, which is also where we began, okay? So hop over there and we're going to work this time into the space 2 double crochet because we have this this chain 6 that counts as a double crochet and a chain 3, okay? So we're going to go into that space, the next corner space, and work 2 double crochet. So 1 and 2, okay? Then we're going to count 3 chains up, 1, 2, 3, and join to close with a slip stitch. Insert the hook into that chain, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop that's already on your hook. And our little triangle is complete. Now I need to shape it up a little bit, so let's do that next. We're done with the green, so we can cut the yarn. And we're going to wrap the yarn around the hook and fasten it off. Bring it through there, okay? Now, any ends that you have, go ahead and give them a little tug, like so, and a little snip, okay? And then this last one we can deal with later. But I like to get those corners nice and sharp when I'm doing my triangles, okay? So now we're going to move on to the white. I'm going to grab my fabric piece and put it down so we can see this white yarn better. All right, our background is back and we're going to go into any corner space. I like to just go opposite of the one with the tail, okay? So go in any corner space of our triangle and we're going to hook the new yarn on, same way we've been doing, and then just tie it right on there. So tie your new yarn into any corner space and we're going to hold that tail along the edge as well. And then we're going to reach in with our hook, bring up a loop, and we're going to chain 6 once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, just like when we did our square, we're going to have corners and sides all the way around, same thing, okay? But we only have 3 sides instead of 4. Okay, so we did a chain 6, and then in this first space here, we're going to work 3 double crochets, the same space. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, and 3 double crochet, just like that. Then we're going to chain 1 and we're going to work the side space, okay? So 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1. Next corner right here of our triangle, work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 3, 1, 2, 3 to work that corner, pushing things over if needed, if it's getting a little crowded. And in the same corner space, work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1. Work the next side, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1. Now I've come to a tail, so I'm going to hold that tail along the edge and we're at a corner space once again. So to work your corner space, work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 3 to work the corner, 1, 2, 3, and 3 double crochet in that same space, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, hop over, and I dropped my tail because I've incorporated it, hop over to the next space. It's a side space this time, so work 3 double crochet into that space, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then we're at the last space, which is also where we began. So in that corner space this time, work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, because remember that chain 6 at the beginning of the round counted as a double crochet chain 3. So you're going to count 3 chains up, 1, 2, 3, and join with a slip stitch to close. Insert the hook. Whoops, my hook slipped. Insert the hook into that 3rd chain up, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook, and our little triangle is done, okay? So what we're going to do is just do a little finish work. Wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through the loop, and pull through, okay? Flip your triangle over, and anywhere where you have woven ends in as you went along, just give those a little snip. Again, if you want to save all this for the end, it's totally a matter of your preference and your style of working. All right, and then I'm just going to weave this tail in to finish up, okay? Just like that. And I just like to come in the other direction to kind of lock that tail into place. And then we're going to just give it a little snip once again, okay? So we have made, let me just flip this over. We have made a granny triangle and we have made a granny square. So once again, we're going to make, this is done. So we made our one triangle and then we're going to make a total of 15 squares, okay? So we're gonna, I like to sharpen these corners up too. So we're gonna depart and work on our squares a little bit. And then when we rejoin, we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to put it all together, okay? You can also find on the blog, there's some photos of the assembly as well if you need to refer to those. So go ahead and make your 15 squares, one triangle, and we'll rejoin in just a minute. Okay, I have made all 15 of my squares. As you can see, they're so beautiful and cheerful. I just love them. We're going to take care of some tails. Now I am going to leave the outermost tail here intact because we are going to be sewing them up next. But some of these other tails, I left one to show you. You want to grab your scissors and some of these tails that we wove in as we went along, we just want to give those a snip. So just tug them a little bit and give them a snip, tug and a snip. If you give them a little tug first, it kind of recoils back up into it, okay? So tug and a snip. And then that center one. However many times you change yarn colors is the amount of tails you'll have here. Okay, so we can get those out of the way. And I'm going to leave these outer tails intact just to help me sew it up. If you didn't do that, that's okay. You can just grab another piece of yarn to do that. Okay, so I'm going to grab my first group of 3 squares and my tapestry needle and just grab any square. And we're going to thread our needle. And as you can see where we ended, we want to go over to this corner. So you'll just need to take your needle over to the corner with this tail to get it in the right spot, okay? Now grab a second square and we're going to seam them so that the right sides are facing, okay? So just to show you a difference, this is the right side. This is the side that faced you while you worked. You can see it looks a little bit different than the back. You want to make sure when you're seaming this that all the squares are facing outward and all the inside squares are facing inward. You can see that it looks slightly different, okay? This is the inside of the square, okay? So grab your second square and we're going to just line up the edges and fold them in and we're just going to seam them together, okay? Make sure when you're seaming that everything's nice and lined up like that. And we're just going to work a whip stitch. We're just going to go around and we're kind of create like a spiral in our work, okay? So just go through and whip stitch all the way across. And we will be weaving some ends in at the end. I just wanted to say as a side note. So we're going to seam our first squares like this, all the way across, making sure they're nice and lined up. See, I got my finger in there, just kind of holding it in place. And then you want to just go all the way to the end here with your squares. And then we're at the corner space and you're just going to throw a stitch in there, okay? And then pull it almost all the way through till you have a loop and then send that needle in that last loop, pull tight, okay? Now if you open it back up like a book, our squares are seamed and you can kind of straighten things out as needed, okay? Now we're going to grab the third one. And we're going to just thread that needle. Again, if your tail, this one happens to be at the corner because I did this before, but if it's not at the right spot, just go ahead and send it to the right spot, okay? Now take your third one, fold it inward like we did before, and we're going to whip stitch it. We're going to make like a little row of 3 of these squares, okay? So just whip stitch across. If you're not familiar with the whip stitch, again, it's just a spiral through your work. And using these tails, we're using the same color yarn, so it's going to blend very nicely, okay? So I'm just seaming across here. We're going to seam a couple of these together, and then we'll kind of go off on our own and do some seaming as well. Okay, just seaming these all the way across, and I'm just going to line up those corner spaces so they look nice when I open them back up. And just go across and go across just like that. Pull it almost all the way through when you get to the end and send it through that loop and pull tight, okay? So now we have a row of 3. Again, line those up nice. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring these together to make a loop, just like that, okay? Now if you don't, I don't have a tail in the end here, so I'm going to have to cut a piece for this one. Okay, so cut a piece of yarn. So again, take it to, so the right side is facing inward. Go into that corner space and we're just going to tie on our new piece. You may not need to do that, but I needed to in this case. And we'll just tie it right on, okay? We are doing, this is going to be the top of our stocking. So we're going to replicate this all the way down, okay? So we're at the first corner space. And we're just going to sew these together. We're making kind of like a ring with these squares, okay? So this is going to be the top of our boot shape. Okay, so just work your whip stitch all the way across. I like to put my finger in these spaces here just to make sure everything's lined up. It kind of keeps you on track here as you're sewing, okay? So just go all the way across till you get to the other corner space. Okay, and then you're just going to come up to the end, to that last corner space down here, and pull your tail almost all the way through till you have just a little loop at the bottom, and then just pull it through and tighten, okay? Next, we're going to trim that, all right? Now, we can turn this right side out, and as you can see, we have a ring of 3 granny squares, okay? So next what we'll do, and this is going to turn into a stocking pretty quickly as we sew. So next what we're going to do, if you see any tails popping out too, you can give those a trim as well. So I'm going to just give that a trim. All right, so we're going to set this aside up here. Grab 3 more squares and you're going to do the same exact thing. Sew them together in a ring. And then you'll grab 3 more and you'll sew those together in a ring. So go ahead and replicate that, and when we come back, we'll rejoin and do some more seaming. Okay, so I made 3 bands here for the leg part. So we have the top part of our stocking now. Next, we're going to move on to the middle part. Next part with the remaining squares, we'll do the toe part, okay? So what we want to do is grab 3 squares and our triangle, okay? So for this part, we want to make like an L shape with a point at one end, okay? So it's going to look like this when we sew it, but we're going to do it on the back, okay? So we want to take 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, and then our triangle out the side, okay? So like an L with a point, okay? Again, all these photos can be found over at the Fiberflux blog. So next, let's sew our squares together, okay? Okay, we have our little L shape with our triangle at one end, okay? So the next thing we want to do is take this top corner and fold it down to the bottom right corner of this square. Again, all the photos are online if you wanted to see them there as well, okay? So it'll give you this angle that looks kind of like this, okay? Then we want to take our triangle and we want to take this point that's sticking out and fold it down to the bottom left corner of the triangle, okay? So fold it down like that. Okay, and then we're going to seam along this line here, but we want to do it inside out. So go ahead and just take those edges. Be very careful to make sure they're the right edges. And we're just going to seam along this line, okay? So just take your needle in there. And whoops, and then I had a piece of yarn. I'm just going to tie mine on because I didn't have a tail handy, but that's okay. Anywhere you need to tie one on is fine. We're going to weave all these ends in at the end, okay? And then we're just going to seam along this line here. Try to also keep everything lined up as you go. Same thing we've been doing. Just do your whip stitch straight across. Whoops, we got some tails here. Lots of tails because we're making lots of joins here, lots and lots of seams. Okay, but I find that it's with these stockings, and it's obviously a total personal preference, But with these stockings, I find that sewing them, you have a little bit more control, especially when there's a lot of parts to put together, but totally up to you. You could always do the join as you go if you prefer that method for this. I've done that for lots of projects here along the years. This one, I definitely wanted to sew this one. Okay, so we're just taking our whip stitch all the way up to the edge. Now I have my corner spaces lined up here with my finger, kind of marking it. And we're just going to take it all the way down to the end, leaving a little loop. And send your needle through and just pull it tight. Okay, so when you're done seaming, turn it right side out. And what you'll have is this shape where one side curves up. That's where our granny triangle is. And one side curves down. That's where that folded square is. And you have a square here and a square here in the middle, okay? So the shape should look like this. Again, the photos are on the blog as reference. So when we look at our boot shape, we have our 3 pieces of the cuff part of the boot, or the top part. And then if we slide down, the piece that we just made where we have our heel, the granny triangle heel, and then the slanted down folded square, it kind of fits onto the bottom of that. So we are starting to get a little bit of a boot shape, okay? Now we're going to work the bottom. So you should have 3 squares left, and I'm starting to collect some ends here, but you should have 3 squares left. So for these 3 squares, what we're going to do is to create kind of the bottom toe part, okay? So to make that, what we'll do is we'll stack 2 squares. Now let me just slide everything up so you can see it better. We're going to take our 3 squares, and you're going to stack 2 squares, and they're actually going to go down here at the bottom. And then you're going to take, because this curves in, so this is all seamed and this is open. So you can see that this is open, and you can see that this is open in the top because this will connect to this, okay? So we'll take our 2 stacked squares and put them here. And then we're going to take a square and we're going to fold it corner to corner like this so it makes a triangle. And that is going to fit right in here to create the bottom, the toe part, okay? So what we want to do is we're going to take these 2 stacked squares and we're going to go around and around, but leave this open, okay? Because this is going to be, imagine if a giant foot was going in there, okay? So we're going to go around the left side and along the bottom, okay? So go ahead and go left side along the bottom. And then we're going to connect our folded square to the front, and if we flip it, I'm trying to hold it all together, and the back, okay? So we're going to, let me just show you one more time. We're going to seam these 2 together here, seam this here, and then seam these 2 together front and back, okay? Okay, and now the bottom part is seamed, so we have seamed the side, the bottom, this part in between here, front and back. Okay, so it sort of makes like a pouch at the bottom. All right, and that fits nicely into the bottom. We're going to start at the top. We have our boot that is 3 squares around, making 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings. Then we had our combination of squares and granny triangle to make the heel and the top, kind of the top slope of the foot. And then we came around and did the bottom here and turned it into the toe and kind of the remaining slope of the heel. We need to connect all of our pieces. So the last part is we'll seam all of the joins, all of these sections rather, together. And then when we rejoin, we'll look at our handiwork, weave in some ends, and then I'm going to show you how to make just a nice little edge at the top with a hanging loop, okay? Before we start seaming, I'm going to work from the top down, but before we start seaming, I wanted to point out that we want to sort of stair step our granny squares, okay? So you could line them up like this, just sort of like line them up. But to give it a little bit more interest, what I did was sort of roll these tubes around a little bit so that I have one square here, one square here, and one square here. And the reason for that is because at any angle that you look at, you're going to get an even kind of distribution of squares, okay? And then when you put this bottom one on, it kind of continues that, okay? So that, I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so continue connecting all the segments of your stocking, and we'll rejoin in just a minute. Okay, I am just seaming the last little section of the stocking here. And again, as you notice, it's inside out. So we wanted to seam this as inside out as much as we can. It's not always possible with some of these passages of seaming, but we want to make sure that we seam every little bit of this. And now I'm at the end here. So I'm going to pull this like we've been doing almost all the way through, leaving a little loop, and just send the needle through, okay? And we can just pull that tight. Now, before we turn this right side out, I'm just going to straighten things out. And you can see we have that lovely stocking shape, okay? But before we turn this right side out and start working on the little top detail and the hanging loop, what we need to do is weave in some of these ends, okay? So what we want to do is, there's going to be lots of them because we did lots of seaming, okay? So any end that you see, you can grab your needle. Now, we did weave in some of the ends that we wove in as we went along, and that's great. But some of these where we sewed things together, you'll have some ends still to deal with, okay? So just grab your needle, and we want to stay in these back loops because remember, this is inside out. And we're just going to go in one direction with our tail, come back in the other direction. And then you just want to repeat that for all of your tails, okay? Now these are going to be hung and filled with things and get lots of movement. So you want to make sure you get all your ends woven in. And if you see one that you didn't trim, like this one I wove in as I went along, just take care of that right then and there. You might run into a couple of those as you go along, okay? So what we want to do now is just finish weaving in the ends, and then we're going to turn it right side out and have the big reveal. Okay, all of the ends have been woven in. It looks wonderful. Okay, let's turn this right side out. So I'm just going to put my arm all the way in and grab the toe and pull the end. Okay, once the stocking has been turned right side out, you can kind of straighten it out a bit. And now we are ready to do just a little band across the top and a hanging loop, okay? So what we want to do is you want to flip your stocking over and you want to go to the back of the stocking. And let's look at that a little bit. Now right here I have an area where two squares have joined, okay? I'm just going to straighten that out a little bit. And we're going to take any color you want. I'm going to do bright red. And we're going to grab some yarn and our hook, same hook size as before that we used to make our squares. And I'm going to turn mine because I'm going to go into the area between these squares here, okay? So you can go into like a corner space if you need to, okay? And then we're going to hook our new yarn on and bring it through and just tie it right on, okay? So just tie it right on there. And then I'm going to flip my stocking back around because we're going to start working around, okay? I'm going to go around the edge with some simple stitches, and then at the end we'll create our hanging loop, okay? So this will just give a nice little edge, and as you can see here, whenever you join squares, sometimes where one ends and another begins, you might have like a little dip. So this is going to give our stocking just a nice straight edge on the top, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into that same space where we tied our new yarn on, and I'm going to zoom in just a bit so you can see a little bit better here. But we're going to go back into that space where we tied our new yarn on, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and then we're going to chain one, and then we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch and space all the way around, okay? So go into that first stitch, work a single crochet. So go in, bring up a loop. You'll have two loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops, okay? Go into the next stitch, go into the next stitch, and then we're at, a space. So go into the space. We're just working single crochets in each stitch and in each space all the way around, okay? Okay, so one little thing I wanted to point out is when you get to an area where two squares have joined, again, we're working into each stitch and each space. So what we want to do is go into the corner space, hop over to the next square and go into that corner space, okay? And then just continue working in each stitch and each space all the way around, okay? So go ahead and do that. And when you get to those spots, just work into the corner spaces, okay? Okay, just coming up to the end of the round, and what we're gonna do is, if you like the thinner border like this, feel free to keep that. I'm gonna go for another round, and we're gonna join, so that first single crochet that we made on the round, we're gonna join to close the round, okay? So insert your hook into that first single crochet you made, bring up a loop, now bring that loop through the loop that's already on your hook. This time we're going to go with a double crochet stitch. I wanted to do a single crochet just to give it an edge, but we're going to mimic the double crochets that are in the rest of the stocking. So next we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This counts as one of our double crochets, and we're going to work a double crochet in each stitch all the way around, okay? Side note, I'm going to hold this tail where I tied the yarn on. I'm going to hold this tail along the edge as I work, and that will weave it in as we go. That will save us a step later, okay? So work a double crochet in each stitch all the way around, and then when we rejoin, what we're going to do is we're going to close up the round and add a quick little hanging loop, and then we're going to just add some embellishments to the toe and the heel, okay? So keep going, working a double crochet in each stitch around, also holding that tail along the edge as you work, okay? So go ahead and we will rejoin in just a minute, and already we have a nice little edge at the top here. Okay, we're just working that last little stitch here. And then what we're going to do is that chain 3 we did at the beginning of the round, we're going to join in the topmost chain of that chain 3 to close the round. Okay, so go 1, 2, 3 chains up, insert the hook into that chain, bring up a loop, now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. Okay, so before we continue, let's just peek at our beautiful stocking top. Now, as you can see, there's a little tail poking out. That's the one I wove in as I went along. I'm just going to give it a little tug and trim, and then when you straighten it back out, it'll just kind of go back in there and disappear, okay? So for our hanging loop, it's super easy. All we're going to do is chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then we're going to go back down with our hook, and we're going to join with a slip stitch to bring the loop back down. Now, before you fasten it, just make sure if you need a bigger loop, like if you're going to put this around a doorknob or a larger hook or something like that, you can do more chains here. I just need a little loop for a hook, okay? But it's up to you. So if you need a bigger loop to hang it on something bigger, just do more chains at this point, okay? That note is also on the written pattern on the blog. Okay, so go back down to the stitch at the base of that chain, and we're going to insert our hook into that stitch, bring up a loop, now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. So just slip stitch at the base of that chain, just like that. And then, let me just slide this stocking out of the way. We're going to cut the yarn, and we're going to fasten off. And I'm going to do just another knot just to get it nice and secure, because this will be hanging from this loop. So we want it to be nice and secure. You can just kind of make a loop and then just like slide it in towards the other knot, okay? Now, what we'll do next is grab our tail. This is the last tail that we're going to deal with here. And just kind of roll your stocking down so you can see the inside of it, and then just weave that tail in. And stay in the red area for this, because we want our tail to disappear, okay? So just take it through these back loops. Again, we're on the inside. We just kind of rolled our stocking down a little bit. Take it through those loops and pull it through, and then go back in the other direction with our tail, okay? And then you can just snip that. All right, so let's turn our stocking right side out. We have this lovely edge now that we've created and the hanging loop, okay? So you can see the hanging loop and the edge. All right, so let's back out here so you can see the whole thing. It looks amazing. The last thing that I want to do, that I want to show you, is how to embellish your stocking. So grab some yarn. We're going to do, I'm going to show you how to add some bells and some pom-poms and things like that, okay? Okay, so I want to show you how to do both a bell and a pom-pom. So I'm going to actually put a bell up here by our hanging loop just to show you. So cut a little piece of yarn the same color as what you're sewing it to. In my case, that's red. And if you notice, I actually grabbed a smaller needle because you want to make sure that the needle can pass through the hole of the bell. This one is a little bit too big, okay? So all I'm going to do is just thread the needle. And we're going to put the bell onto the strand of yarn, just like that, okay? And then I'm just going to go to the base of the hanging loop just as a little extra embellishment. And we're going to pull that through. And then we can just tie the yarn right on and then weave those ends in, okay? So all I did was use the needle to assist me in tying that bell on. And I'm just putting that at the base of the hanging loop just for a little sparkle, just for a little extra. And then you can weave those tails in. I'm going to go back to my bigger needle because it's a little bit easy to get the yarn through the eye. If it fits through here, it just is a little bit easier. All right, and then we'll weave those ends in for that. Now, you can also put a bell at the heel and the toe of your stocking. It just really depends on what you have and what you want to use, okay? It's up to you. But I have some more bells here. They usually come, and I'm going to deal with that tail in just a minute. But I have some bells here, and you can put them at the heel here and at the toe here, but I'm going to do a nice red pom-pom so it matches the top. But I just wanted to also show you how to attach a bell in case that's the direction that you wanted to go in with your embellishments, okay? You could also do some bows. You could do tassels. I have a full tutorial. The link is over at the blog on the written pattern if you wanted to do a tassel as well. So anyway, I just wanted to add a cute little bell to the top just to show you. All right, now we're going to make a quick and easy pom-pom. I don't use a pom-pom maker. I just make pom-poms with my hands. So I'm going to just show you a quick and easy way. All right, so what you want to do is you want to cut the yarn about 12 inches long, cut a piece of yarn, and we're going to just set it aside. Okay, next, we're going to take a piece of yarn in our hand and we're going to let it fall down the front of our hand. And we're going to start wrapping. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, and 100. Okay, so I'm going to bring the tail back down to the bottom along with the other one. Give it a snip, okay? So you have a nice thick bundle here. The thicker you make your bundle, the more dense your pom-pom will be, okay? So we're going to lay our tail down. Remember that piece of yarn that we cut? We're going to lay that down flat. I'm going to move these bells because they're over here ringing. We're going to lay that down and we're going to carefully put our bundle onto that piece of yarn that we cut. And I'm going to take my bundle and I'm going to lay it down right in the middle, okay? So lay your bundle down, right down on that yarn and tie. So we're going to tie it, and I'm just holding it there because I did squirt a little bit of glue. I'm kind of letting the glue set up. So then we're going to take our two pieces that I was just holding, and we're going to start to cut all the loops out of here, okay? All right, so take your scissors, and a larger pair of scissors is much more useful in this case here than a little pair of scissors. And just any loops that you see, just cut those loops. The only loop that you don't want to cut is the one that you tied around your bundle. You want to keep that intact, okay? So as you can see, I'm taking my scissors and I'm just kind of like digging around, looking for loops. All right, I think I got them all on that side. So I'm going to flip this over and cut the loops on this side, okay? So go ahead and give that a trim. And then, as you can see, you don't want to cut your handles, if you will, that you use to tie it together. Now, as you can see, our pom-pom looks very wild, okay? This is not how we want it to end up. but we're going to give it a little haircut, okay? So we just want to cut this, and as you can see, I'm holding those two ties because we're going to use this to tie it onto the stocking. But we're just going to give this a haircut and give this a nice, dense, perfectly round pom-pom shape, okay? Now, I'm doing this on camera to show you, but you want to do this over like a trash can. Or if you save yarn scraps to stuff things with, you can do this over a little bag or something like that to catch them, okay? But this makes a big mess, so just try to do this over something that is not going to make a mess, okay? And as you can see, I'm just shaping this up into a nice dense ball shape, okay? Okay, so here's the first pom-pom, and as you can see, it's been shaped up into a nice sphere. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna just sew it on. I'm gonna do one on the heel and one on the toe, okay? So just grab your tapestry needle and just find the outermost point, and then you're just gonna go into those stitches with your tail, one of the tails from the pom-pom, and then just bring it through. And then the neat thing about sewing a pom-pom is you don't have to weave in ends. You can just trim it. So I'm just going to sew that really securely on there. And then I want to tie a couple of just really strong knots. And then the neat thing is you can just take your scissors and just cut your tail up against the pom-pom, and then it'll just kind of disappear into the pom-pom if you cut it the same length as the other yarn pieces, okay? So here is the first pom-pom, and I'm going to make a second pom-pom for the toe part, okay? So go ahead and repeat that if you're doing a pom-pom, and when we rejoin, we'll look at our finished stocking. So the pom-poms are on, they look really festive, and I wanted to add as a side note, if you like the look of the bells on the heel and the toe as well, you can see them at the beginning of this video, and also there's some pictures of it over at the blog. I wanted to show you both options for that, and that is how you make a classic granny square stocking. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. I had so much fun making this, and I can't wait to see all of yours. Share below what colors you're going to be making, and I cannot wait to hear all about it. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiberflux video updates. Thanks again.